hatufanani.
Thank you very much. I want us to start, so please let's now settle down and to invite Reverend Otieno and Sheikh Elvis to come and lead us in the morning prayer as we commence our day's activities. Please come to the front.
Could we all rise? We thank you, good Lord, for the blessedness of this new morning that you've given unto us. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given us to learn and to share and even to work together. Thank you for the past 2 days that we've been here. As we come to the last day, we commit ourselves before your able hands. Father, that you will guide our deliberations of today, that eventually as we make recommendations, there will be those recommendations that will work to make the lives of our children better. Help us as we do this so that we are genuine in what we are doing and what we are planning. We continue to commit our country into your able hands. Father, we pray that our leaders will embrace dialogue, even as we beseech you to help our country. As we begin this session, bless us and be with us, for this is our prayer through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Tuombe. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Innal hamdalillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkulu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahu bi ihsani ila yawmiddin. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Arrahmanir rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim khairil maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise and thanks are Allah's, the Lord of the Alamin, mankind, jinn, and all that exist, the most gracious, the most merciful, the only honor and the only ruling judge of the day of recompense, i.e. the day of resurrection. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help for each and everything. Guide us to the right way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, not the way of who earned your anger, nor of those who went astray. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu mwingi wa rehema, tunakushukuru kwa ajili ya kutujalia uhai. Kwa hakika uweza wa kutuwezesha sisi kuwa hai mpaka leo tukawa tuko wazima. Hii yote uwezo huu uko mikononi mwako. Kuna wale ambao kwamba walitarajia kuiona siku ya leo, lakini kwa sababu siku yao ya kuondoka ilikuwa imefika, basi hawajakuwa ni wenye kuiona siku ya leo. Kwa hivyo tunakushukuru Mwenyezi Mungu mwingi wa rehema kwa kutujalia kutupa uzima kuweza kuiona siku ya leo. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, tunakuomba wagonjwa wote ambao kwamba wako mahospitalini, manyumbani na mahala popote walipo, uwe ni mwenye kuwaguza, kwa sababu wewe ndiwe daktari mkuu. Tunakuomba ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, baada ya kuwa umetujalia tumekuwa katika mkutano huu kwa takriban siku 2 zilizopita, leo ni siku ya 3. Kati yetu sisi kuna wale ambao kwamba walitoka sehemu mbalimbali, na baada ya hapa tuna imani ya kwamba utatujalia tuweze kumaliza huu mkutano kwa amani. Tunakuomba ewe Mwenyezi Mungu wajalie wote ambao kwamba tuko hapa, wale waliotoka sehemu mbalimbali, uwe ni mwenye kuwasafirisha salama barabarani. Wewe uwe ndiye dereva ambao kwamba utawaongoza. Wakifika nyumbani wakapata jamaa zao wako salama, basi tutakuwa ni wenye kushukuru, na wao pia watakuwa ni wenye kushukuru. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ibariki kaunti yetu ya Turkana. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ibariki nchi yetu ya Kenya. Amen.
Baba Mungu, kwa jina la Yesu Kristo tunashukuru jina lako asubuhi ya leo, kwa sababu umetusanya hapa, umetutaamsha, umetulinda usiku mzima, na leo hii ni siku njema ambayo umeandaa kwa ajili ya maisha yetu. Tunakushukuru Bwana kwa sababu tangu tulipoanza siku ya Monday mpaka siku ya leo, Bwana, tunaenda kutamatisha mkutano huu kwa jina la Yesu Kristo. Asante Bwana, siku ya leo kuna wengi wetu watasafiri kwenda manyumbani. Tunakuomba Bwana ukalinde, walinde watu wako katika jina la Yesu Kristo. I pray for journey mercies for those who will go back to their homes in the name of Jesus. Baba, wafunike kwa damu yako, walinde Mungu wetu. Wakatakapo safiri na kwenda manyumbani, tutashukuru kwa sababu wakifika salamini, tutakushukuru, tunakuinua. Uwepo wako ukatulinde usiku ya leo. shughuli zote ambazo tunafanya hapa, Mungu utusaidie na kutupe hekima na maarifa. Bwana utupe hekima, utupe maarifa, utupe nguvu mpya siku ya leo, ili tukafanye yale ambayo umekusudia tufanye siku ya leo. Asante Bwana, mpango yote nakabidhi mkononi mwako, programa na wale wote ambao watakaozungumza, Mungu utalinda na kutuinua. Asante Bwana. Maji tunabariki, chakula ambacho tutakula nimebariki, kwa jina la Yesu Kristo nimeomba na kuamini. Amen.
Thank you. Asante sana. Let's appreciate our pastors and Sheikh. Karibu sana. So let's have our seats. Those of us who are getting into the tent. This is day 3. Hii ni siku ya ngapi? Siku ya ngapi? Day 3 is a good day. I want to see the ushers. Where are they? My ushers, I am looking for your help. Please come to me. Ninaomba tuweze kuketi wale ambao tunatafuta viti ili kwamba tuanze hii sehemu. Okay, so day 3 is here. Bado tunasalimiana. Unapomsalimu mtu muulize ulijifunza nini jana. Jana ulijifunza na ni nini ambacho unaweza kutekeleza. Remember, it is not just about learning. We were also saying we will do what? We will go and act. Isn't that so? So I have microphones and you have an opportunity to have your voice amplified. Naomba wale ambao bado wanaangaliana wakisalimiana tukae chini. Could we very quickly, anyone just to tell us one thing that they remember from yesterday and then what it is that they are going to do. One thing you learned, what you are going to do. Haya, kuna mmoja tayari hapa, kuna mwingine hapa, tuko na wawili tayari. Kule nyuma kuna mtu aweza kunisaidia na microphone ifike huko. Haya. Tutaanza na ndugu, jitambulisha na utuambie ni nini ambacho ulisoma jana.
Good morning everybody. Yesterday I learned that ECD schools in Turkana, without the water to grow, they have managed to grow vegetables in their schools, and they have managed to convince their parents to grow vegetables and eat vegetables. I was very, very, very moved by that initiative. I come from Garissa, where we share the same dynamics with Turkana County, knowing that if I go back there, I'll be able to convince our children also to grow vegetables in their schools. You know, to convince a pastoralist to take vegetables is like telling him nyasi. It's very hard to convince a pastoralist to take vegetables. Tunakula nyama. But Turkana children have managed to convince their parents to eat vegetables and to grow vegetables. And that's what I'm going to do if I go back to Garissa.
Thank you. Asante, makofi kwake. Very well done and very well. Next one we have here. Sorry, Doctor.
My name is Abisaki Olo from Turkana University College. I learned a very important thing. Men in the house, are you there? That mukitaka wamama wapate mimba, mujitayarishe, mujipange, because it is a very special moment for that lady. Conception per se should be planned. And then the 1,000 days of the child are extremely important. Extremely important.
It's just that the speakers are too close to you, so we are trying to have you.
Okay. I think I can project my voice. That they are they're extremely important. So we must really take care of that baby at the moment before conception, at conception, and the time the baby is born. Then I also learned something very interesting, that the brain development takes, it occurs at a very early stage. So that baby should be taken care of. Take care of the mother in terms of nutrition, in terms of her mental health, in terms of everything, so that the climate is conducive for the baby and the mother, so that there is a good child development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my sister. A big to you is, are you going to prepare to get one? We were looking for action. So what is the action? Or you are going to train the mothers in your church? No, just tell me.
The action is here. Okay, now that I have hung my boots, I'm not there, but I have children who are going to get babies. So now it's just to get close to those children and tell them to take care of their people, so that when they get babies, they take care of those babies even before they get those babies. And I will be there to supervise.
Well done, well done. Sasa, most of you belong to churches, most of you belong to women groups, you belong to chamas, you also belong to where the fathers go to sit in pubs and so on. The opportunity is there. Preconception services must be there, and then teach them about brain development. Aya, tumsikize wa mwisho. You're asking the theme. Okay, from evidence. Yes.
Microphone umetupa?
Yes, sitatupia sababu mwalimu akienda mashinani
hawakusikilizi, watu online hawatasikia.
Someone else, all of you have smartphones. All of you have smartphones.
Weka on, please.
Yesterday, and someone else to record, please, so that we avoid the echo. I made a discovery, and I didn't find it. Actually, I didn't find it. Someone found it. And gave it, passed it to me. I see I have your attention. Yes? Yes. We have been looking for the answers in all the wrong places. And it is there. It has been staring. The answers have been with us. And I want to thank Chair, Dr. Ngasike. I'm a student. I've been a student for a long time. My first degree is in English and Literature, 2002, from Kenyatta University. And coincidentally, now the doctors, the teachers are shying off, and they are telling the teacher, go and practice, isn't it? Yes. CBC, there's been a lot of noise, a lot of discussions about it. And until we learn how to simplify, we will not be able to pass the message across. There's been so much noise. Chair tried to talk to me. He passed it to me. We are communicating. Thank you, teamwork. However, we were in a Tower of Babel. We were not able to understand one another. You see, when I was new, it took us time. I'm from Elgeyo Marakwet County. I didn't know Ngaturkana, and he challenged me. At that time, I didn't know that he was posing a question to make me to reflect. So in my heart, I wondered, what is it? Huh? Why are we? You see, I like the fact that I have your attention. Riddle. From theory to practice. You know the answer? I have something. I want to give it to someone. Now you're keeping quiet and we are telling the teacher, go and demonstrate, isn't it? Yes. The unique thing, you know, they say what? It has been written, kimeandikwa. Na imeandikwa kwa kitabu ambacho sisi wote labda tuko nayo, lakini hatuifungui. Iko nyumbani, kwetu. Mtu atafute Biblia saa hizi. Mimi sina, ninapeana instructions. I'm leading the class. I'm not the teacher. I'm a student. However, yesterday I had the opportunity of turning teachers to students, professor and daktari. I forced them to sit down and to listen to me. Story, story. Story, story. Where is it? Who has it? No, I don't have it. You have it. If you give me and you give someone else, it will go around. Eventually, it will come back to me. Story, story. You're sitting. You're telling the teacher from policy to and evidence. Evidence is in the classroom. You see, action is in the classroom. That is the essence of CBC, simplifying integration of all information, putting it in a form simple enough to be understood. I want to summarize. Saving for your retirement. This is a gift from CPF. The whole story is here, but it is all jumbled up. So I have it. I will give it to. I will share with Daktari. Dramatization. You know, when I left the house, my house girl told me, "Mom, you look so nice. Let me take a photo." Story, story. Story, story. Why are you still seated? I finished the story. Life is very simple. All the answers are with us, only that we are looking in all the wrong places. Thank you.
Ni mwalimu ametupeleka katika mtandao mwingine, kwa hivyo tunashukuru. Thank you very much for your elaborate description. I want to ask that the microphone be given to one person in that space, and that is a gentleman, the only person who has a mask in the whole building. There is only one person with a mask. If you can identify where they are, please give them the microphone. We want to find out why they have a mask. Usiende nyuma sana. Nafikiria dada ukianzia huku mbele utaweza kufaulu. Kuna mmoja tu, na sababu ya kumpa meki kuna wawili. While you are holding the microphone, Prof, please just face the people very waangalie tu na uwaeleze wewe ni nani na nini unachofanya, kisha tuweze kukamilisha sehemu hiyo. Tumpigie makofi profesa. Ametoa, unaona makofi ni mazuri, anatoa kila kitu. Piga makofi tena, ametoa mask. Haya, sawa. Kwa ufupi tu Prof, nakupa dakika moja.
Hamjambo. Hamjambo. Asanteni sana kunialika hapa. This mic is not green. Where is another mic? It's working. I consider it a privilege to stand before you. I'm called Professor Simon Onywere, and I'm actually a friend of the county here. Why? Because in 2021, we were very much concerned about the lake level rise. Lake Turkana submerged almost all the beaches, and the villagers were displaced, and the government sent us here. Can I have another mic? Can you find mic, please? Behind you. Can you find mic? Thank you. Yeah, this is the mic. I came here with a team from the Ministry of Forestry and Environment, and we actually did an excursion of the lakes and documented the challenges that the lakes have, actually the entire Rift Valley. And for that reason, I was given the responsibility of taking the lead in Lake Turkana. I am also privileged because I came here. I'm not a childhood specialist, but I'm actually leading a project in Tarakaniti that is going to deal with children. And is going to deal with the development of children. And we are asking the question, if we took a child who is 3 years old to school, will that child develop well? And what must we give that child so that that child develops well and the mother is at peace? Why? Because earlier on we had gone to Tarakaniti and did a livelihood survey on the mothers. And one of the challenges the mothers said that they have is childcare burden. Childcare burden in the sense that they don't have people who take care of their children. The grandmothers are no longer there, and or if they are there, they are not interested in taking care of your children, and the maids are messing about with their children. So it gives them the big responsibility of taking care of their children, and that denies them the opportunity to go and engage in other women economic empowerment activities. And for that reason, we asked ourselves a question: what can we do to these mothers to enable them go and engage in economic activities? And the answer we came up with is to find a way of taking those children to school. And therefore, we have designed a program, a curriculum actually with Professor Mwoma here, Dr. Uko here, and other colleagues from Kenyatta University and the University of Yale and in the US, and University of Bangor in the UK, and the University of West Indies in Jamaica. Along with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we are going to institute a project in the next 2 years, beginning 2024, where we are going to bring children into class and implement a curriculum on them. And what have I learned here is that if you want a curriculum to be interesting to children, then the children must have something to do, not something to talk or hear, but something to do with their hands, activities for them. It could be play activities, but most of the activities are making sure that the children are busy using their hands. And I was very privileged yesterday to sit in one of the forums where almost every speaker was saying that. They concluded that wherever they have gone to do assessment of studies, they see as if the children will learn better if they were given an opportunities to do work with their hands. And our project is exactly about that. We are going to implement it in the county of Tharaka Nithi, and hope through the results of that research that this information will be used and cascaded to the entire county first of all, and to the rest of the country. And we look forward to you guys engaging with us where we are doing the project and seeing what we are implementing and how effective that one is, and more so, how we are empowering the teachers to develop materials for use by the children using local materials. Instead of buying parcels, we help the teachers to prepare parcels themselves using cartons and anything that is available, including blocks and so on. And we are using that, and we hope it will be very successful. And we invite you to Kenyatta University. I'm within a bigger program funded by Bill Melinda Gates, and even this project is going to be funded by Bill Melinda Gates, called Initiative for What Works for Women Economic Empowerment, under the Kenyatta University Women Economic Empowerment Hub. And you can find us, if you come and look for that facility in Kenyatta University, you'll find us there, and we'll have a conversation about our project. God bless you, and I love you guys, all of you. Asante.
Makofi kwake. Professor anapotuelekeza kwamba in the next conference we hope to get some results from that. Sawa. Hii shule ya chekechea kwa Kiingereza inaitwa nini? Shule ya chekechea kwa Kiingereza twaiita nini? Kindergarten. Okay, kuna kindergarten, kuna jina lingine? Nataka tu mnieleze mnaita
Chekechea kwa Kiingereza ni nini? PP1, PP2? Ni nursery. Ni pre-primary.
Watoto hapa hii mic kwa sababu niko hapa watanipatia story. Ni nini? Pre-pri? Alafu wale watoto wanaosoma huko wanaitwa nini? Preschoolers, Okay. So ikisema ni preschool inamaanisha kuna shule? Nimeuliza tu swali. This is the ECD National Conference. Sawa? So it's a preschool, So what is it supposed to be? A preschool, sindio? Is there supposed to be school? Or there is school? Or it is a pre-primary school? It is before primary. So a school before primary. Okay, haya basi nitakupa barasi nafasi ya kufikiria kidogo kuhusu pre-primary school. Alafu utaniambia what should go there. Sasa haya, asante. So it's time for us to move on. Yesterday,
If you are in what do we call it, the break room number 2, you might have left your mouse, so I don't know what the rats were eating. Jaika, why do you leave rats with us? We need them. Come and pick. Karibu sana. And if you also left your charger, yeah. This is a laptop charger. In case you left it there, please come with your ID.
We shall give it to you. Yeah. This is yours. We don't want you to go home and then also fail to work. So at this moment in time, I want to move us into the program. And just for your information, this is how the day is going to flow. We are going to start off with a keynote address. And this keynote address is what was meant to be our first activity for today. And this is meant to have been a keynote address by Ms. Florence Omundi, who happens to be a Deputy Commissioner at the Prison Service, around a good start for all children. After we have that, we are going to get into a panel discussion. We've limited the number to about 3 panelists who are going to talk to us. That panel discussion will then lead us into the county block presentations. And we will begin there by having the Lake Region Economic Block CEO talk to us, and then we will have all the counties within the Lake Region Economic Block, followed by the NORED, and then all the other blocks that we have. So we are going to limit each one of you to a minimum of, say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes at most to be able to take us through that. We will then have an opportunity to go into a tea break briefly, then come back and continue with county presentations. And I want to draw your attention to the space between the tent that the communications people have and the one that JICA has there. We have some posters that have some very critical stories to tell about studies that have been undertaken by partners in this room. We would like you to go there and, just pay attention to what they have done. The protocol is explained there, the methodology is very clear, what kind of study it is, what the results are, what recommendations are there. It's always the best, snapshot that you can have of how to conduct a study, and that is going to be there. So we have some partners who have made that effort. Please pass by there, learn something. The rest of our work will continue. We'll have that during our tea break. Continue with that. Somebody is moving the mics there, whatever is there. Then we will have the voting for the host county for the next conference. That is the 6th Regional National. And then after that, we will have the conference communique shared. And once the conference communique has been shared, we will then have the closing ceremony. We have our chief guest, the governor, coming in, and therefore at that moment in time we hope we'll be able to close, and by 1 o'clock, God willing, we should be able to conclude. Yeah. So is that agreeable to everyone? 1 o'clock? Simseme ndio? Na ndio mkisema mnasema mkiinua mikono juu. As I take this opportunity to invite Priscilla Susan Majere, who happens to be the Assistant Commissioner General of Prisons and the Deputy Commandant of the Prison Staff Training College. Na ukimwona ni Maragoli kutoka kokote, hebu kuja tu usimame hapa. Sasa Priscilla Susan Majere anapokuja, hebu tumpigie makofi ya kilo 1, 2, 3. Serikali kuu, fungua, funga.
The National Coordinator, ECD Network, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As has been said, my name is Priscilla Majere. I am an Assistant Commissioner General of Prisons and also the Deputy Commandant at the Prison Staff Training College. The Prison Staff Training College is the only college that trains prisons officers and equips them in order to do their work of rehabilitation and reformation of inmates. Today, I'm going to talk about reframing inclusivity, a good start for all children. But before I do that, I would like to request you to please accept the greetings from my Commissioner General, Brigadier Retired John K. Warioba, and the Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, Madam Florence Omundi, whom I am representing here today. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to attend this esteemed conference. It is a place where we remind ourselves of the future that we want for our children. So all of us here are invested parties, because if we do not plan for the future of our children, then we will not have a nation. The Kenya Prisons Department is a department in the Ministry of Interior and National Administration in the State Department for Correctional Services. It was established in 1910. At that time, it was basically punitive because people were taken to prison for punishment. However, in the year around 2000, there was a conversation about reforms, and that's when we embraced the prison reforms. Since then, we have tried not only to, we do not punish the people who come to us. They come to us as punishment, and we endeavor to give them second chances so that they can go back to the community as well-equipped individuals who are fit to live in the community. However, our work as the Prisons Department is to backstop national security. We come at the tail end of the criminal justice system. After everyone else has done their business and you're found, an accused person is found to be guilty, then you're handed over to the prisons for rehabilitation, reformation, and reintegration back into the society. So as a prison service, we contribute to public safety and security by ensuring safe custody of all the people that are committed to us and releasing them at the appropriate time back into the communities. Among the clients that we serve are children, and we'll talk about them later. However, our main objectives are to contain our inmates in humane and safe conditions, ensure that rehabilitation and reformation takes place, facilitate administration of justice by timely court productions. We also work with the treatment of young offenders in Boston Institution and youth correcting training centers. We also provide for facilities of children aged 4 years and below who accompany their mothers to prison. Our motto is rehabilitation and justice, and our vision is that we hope to be a correctional service of excellence in Africa and beyond. We have 134 prisons countrywide. Among these, we have 4 youthful training institutions. These are 2 Boston institutions for boys, 1 for girls, and 1 boy youth corrective training centers. Usually, the children that you'll find in the Boston institutions are those ones who are in conflict with the law. And we endeavor as a prison service to ensure that we make sure that they continue with their learning. We teach them life skills. They are offered counseling and many other programs to ensure that they do not reoffend again. As of this morning, we have upward of 500 children in these institutions. I mentioned we also have a Boston Institution for Girls. It is based in Nairobi, in Kamiti. And among these girls, some of them are teenage mothers. So when a girl is admitted to the institution and she's found to be pregnant, Then she is transferred to Siaya, where we have a probation hostel for girls. In these environments, they too are allowed to continue with their education, so that, like the motto of the clarion call that we have for this conference, no child is left behind. We include all the children in our training programs. Among these 134 institutions that I mentioned, we have 87 for men, 43 for women, and they hold an approximate population of upward of 61,000 inmates as of today. And we also have around 300 children accompanying their mothers. In this county where we are, we have 2 institutions, that is Lodwar Main and Lodwar Women, with a population of around 1,000 inmates. I want us to move now to the two categories of children, prisons that I will concentrate on. I have mentioned about the both institutions, that is for children who are in contact with the law, and I have mentioned what we do for them. We also have children accompanying their mothers into prison, all aged below the age of 4 years. I also want to mention a third category that comes in contact with prisons, and that is children of the mothers who are incarcerated, but they are left at home. No one thinks about these children, and if you're not careful, then they could be left out. So it is important that wherever we are, if we happen to hear that there is a child whose mother is incarcerated, then as children champions, we need to take the initiative and make sure that she also, or he is not left behind. We are established by an Act of Parliament, that's Chapter 90, and it was written way back in the early 70s. This one only mentions children in passing. However, we have trained our officers on the Bangkok rules that guide the management of children and women in prison. Because of the kind of training that we received from the Bangkok rules, we realized that there was a gap in the management of children. And so in 2019, some of our partners conducted a study on the management of children accompanying their mothers to prison. The findings showed that there was a great disparity in the nurturing care and management of the children. This was left basically for the officer in charge to come up with ways, innovative ways, to take care of those children. So as a result, there was a sensitization workshop that was conducted for all officers in charges of female institutions. And in 2021, a decision was reached to anchor the nurturing care framework for the management of children on policy. We realized that the connection of children to prison is one embedded on vulnerability. Children come to prison because they are vulnerable and they require care and protection. And like we have heard since yesterday, that the first 100 days are very important, 1,000 days are very important, then the children end up in prison with the mothers so that they can receive this nurturing care. But we must ask ourselves, how do children end up in prison? The journey of a child into prison begins with the society. It is the society that sends a woman into prison. In our own individual spaces, we should ask ourselves, maybe if a mother wrongs you, how do you solve the issue? Why should you take maybe the difference that you have to a police station? Aren't there other mechanisms that can be used to resolve that dispute? Is there anything too big that cannot be forgiven? Supposing today you had a disagreement with the neighbor because of any issue, and you decided to let it go, would that neighbor who is a mother end up in prison? I think the answer is a resounding no. So each of us must also consider how we respond when we have differences amongst us. So after the 2019 research that was conducted, In 2021, during the 4th National ECD Stakeholder Conference, which was held in Siaya, the Kenya Prison Service made a presentation on the topic caregiving for children accompanying imprisoned mothers, challenges and opportunities for collaboration. This was at a time when we were in the process of coming up with a policy on the care of children of incarcerated mothers. Today, I'm glad to inform you that we successfully launched the policy last year, that is July 2022, and it is now at the implementation stage. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners and stakeholders who supported us during this process. In this policy, children are accounted for. They are provided for fully. They receive care and protection through evidence-based practices in the nurturing care framework. The policy highlights provision of services in key areas like living spaces, health, nutrition, early learning and play, psychosocial support, safety and security, and reintegration. During the process of the formulation of the policy, we worked with other government ministries. The Ministry of Education was involved, Ministry of Health, Labor, amongst others. So the policy that we came up with fits what the government says is right for the children. The theme of this conference is From Policy and Evidence to Action. As KPS, we have the policy. We are at the implementation stage. For those of us who work with government, funds, we know that funds are not easily available. That is why we call out to our partners to once again help us in the implementation. The implementation that we are talking about is having daycare centers in all our 43 female institutions. So far, we have 10 institutions that have got fully functional ECD centers, but the other 33 are making do with what we have. A good example is in Lodwar Women Prison. I would urge us all that if you have the time, the officer in charge is with us here, and I'm sure she would allow us to see where she keeps the children so that you get a grasp of what it is like to be a child in a prison environment. Another milestone that we have reached as the Kenya Prison Service is that we have sensitized and trained officers who deal with children in our prisons. This has been graciously offered by one of our stakeholders, Faraja Foundation, that has been training women who take care of children while their mothers are at work. Some of our officers have also gone through this training. I'm also glad to report that all female officers, the rank of inspector and above, have been trained on Bangkok rules, and those who deal with the children in conflict with the law have been trained on the Havana rules, which deals with the management of the children in our care. As the Deputy Commandant at the Prison Staff Training College, we have inculcated parts of these rules in our training curriculum for our new officers. So the officers who graduated from the Prison Staff Training College in December 2022 were trained on an aspect of these policies. However, there's a need for an in-depth approach, especially for those officers who will be dealing with this group that we are talking about. I would like to thank the county government of Turkana for the support that we have received at the Lodwar prisons. I was there on Saturday, and we have an ECD that is under construction. We also have a multi-purpose hall at the women's prison and an accommodation in the main prison. I was actually informed that many of the leaders that we see in Turkana today are alumni of our ECD center. So I'd like again to continue urging us all, especially the leaders in Turkana County, to continue supporting the ECD education in our prisons. The agenda of ECD development in a prison should be near to all of us. When we do this, then we can ensure that no child is left behind, and we include all the children that require these services. I want to quote another milestone that has been also attained from Lodwar Prison. The Lodwar community also recently led by example and donated uniforms that had been stitched by our prisoners to the ECD children in our facility. I would like us to note that these are not children for the prisons. They actually come from the community.
They are upward of 200. So the community surrounding the prisons brings their children to the ECD center. Some of them, because of poverty levels,
don't have uniform, and that's why our officers stepped in and ensured that they stitch at least a pair of uniform for those children. This is something as children's champions we can also emulate. As I conclude, I would like to make an appeal for the children left behind by their incarcerated mothers. They are also vulnerable. If we come from the communities that we come from, we know that these children are stigmatized because their parents are not with them. Please don't contribute to that stigma. Be a champion, help that child to thrive. Because when we do a research of the prison population, we will find that most of the people that are in prison right now as adults came from dysfunctional
families. Let us not let our children be future inhabitants of our prisons.
So let's all do our part so that we can include all the children in these programs. Finally, I would like to pass my sincere gratitude to the leadership of Turkana County and the people of this county for their warm reception. And we'd like to say that we hope to come back again. Thank you, and God bless you all. However, before I sit down, there was a question that was asked on the first day about children in prison. I hope I have been able to explain what happens to the children in prison. However, I would like to repeat it just for clarity. I said in 2019, there was a research that was conducted, and it identified the gaps in the management of children. In 2021, we had a sensitization at KICD for all female officers on the nurturing care of children. As a result of that sensitization, the officers in charge were requested to deploy all teachers that had been employed by the department before to take care of the children, or if they did not have any teachers among their staff, then they would identify officers that could work with children and second them to their daycare centers. I've also mentioned that one of our partners, Faraja, has helped us to train the caregivers in nurturing care. That is for, you see, when you come to prison and you have a child, it's not always the rule that you will stay with your child throughout the day, because you have to undergo rehabilitation programs that are meant to equip you for life after imprisonment. So in such a circumstance, you will leave your child with a caregiver who is another prisoner and a member of staff who have been assigned the duties of taking care of children. So these are the officers and the inmates that were trained in order to take care of the children that had been left in their care during the day as the mother is involved in training. Then after working, in the evening you come collect your child and go with them to the sleeping quarters. The officers are also expected to work in civilian clothing so as not to stigmatize the children. We work with the MOH and Ministry of Health, who give guidelines on nutrition and education. We also have some teachers that were employed by the Kenya Prison Service. They've actually been employed over the years. And just 2 months ago, we had a retooling for them in order for them to be CBC compliant. At our ministry, we have a Director of Education and Training who is in charge of ensuring that the programs run as the government requires them to. Then I had mentioned that we have ECD centers in all prisons. Some of them may not be up to standard, but at least when you go to that space, you will know you are dealing with children. And lastly, we work with the county governments, like I've mentioned in the county of Turkana. Sometimes they second ECD teachers to us. Together with our staff and volunteers, we ensure that the child meets all their nutritional, educational, and security needs. Thank you very much.
Makofi kwake. Yale ya juu, yale ya juu. She deserves that, eh? Very calm, but a lot of wisdom. Now you know about many things, including the Bangkok rules. Which were the other ones? Havana. That was good. I've also heard her talk about something else. What was it that she mentioned around the purpose of the prison department? They are supposed to do what? To reform and rehabilitate. Did you hear something like that? That they do that. And then I love the fact that science is already in the prisons and they are implementing. They are not talking. Now they have a policy and they are moving forward. And the CEO of Faraja, Jen, please stand. Where are you? Because you've been mentioned. Tumpigie makofi kidogo. Kazi mnafanya kwa prison ni nzuri sana. Thank you. We appreciate you for the good work you're doing. Christine is also there, I know from Faraja. You people are doing a good job. That's a space that needs others. True? When you consider adverse childhood experiences, they are of three kinds: abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. That dysfunction is what sends our children to some of these places, and that's what she's mentioned. So I want us to appreciate this. As I'm speaking, can please Daktari kuja hapa mbele, Dr. Mwoma tafadhali uje hapa mbele, Edith Alu tafadhali kuja hapa mbele. And as I'm continuing to speak, I hope Tobias Ulo is online if it is possible for him to speak, but if it's not, then let me ask also that we have Dr. Olumbe come to the front. Tafadhali kujeni, kuna viti vinne hapa. We are moving into our panel discussion. Let's appreciate them as they come to the front. This is our final panel discussion before we get into the county presentations. And I therefore anticipate that we will run this very fast. So kindly have your seats, Dr. Olumbe and the team. We will do this for the next few minutes. Asante and asante sana. Take our greetings to the Commissioner Prisons for having allowed you to come, Madam. Asante. Sorry, I'm meant to understand that Leonard is also in the room and Michael is coming to also make a presentation. Tafadhali kujeni. We will add chairs. There are many. Wapi Leonard? Tafadhali kuja mbele if you are in the space. Michael Gasheru, where are you? Tafadhali njoo, usije na mkoba wako, kuja tu. No, it's okay. I'll get the chairs. Just sit. Your panelists, please sit. Thank you. Daktari kuja.
Good morning, and nice to have you again, Dr. Olumbe here. And today we are going into the last of the panel sessions, and 5 members here with me and 1 online. And we are going to be looking at a few issues. We have a very brief time. As somebody said, the prefect is around, and so we'll try to respect him. And I'm sure the respondents will also do the same. And we want to look at a few issues and based on the work they have done, and basically is on systems thinking and aligning knowledge. We have policies, we have people trained. How can we change the mindset and how we think, but also align what we know and what is the practice on the ground? So before us, I have this team here, and I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and tell us just briefly about what they have done, and I have specific questions for them. I'll be giving each one of them just about 5 minutes so that we keep within the time that is required. Thank you. I'd like to start with Dr. Teresa Mwama, and she can tell us who she is and what she does. Just a brief introduction, though we have known her.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Teresa Mwama. I'm the National Coordinator ECD Network for Kenya and a Senior Lecturer in the Department of Early Childhood Studies. Thank you. And I'm a PI in the study that I'm going to share the findings.
Thank you. So we'll go to Kenneth.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kenneth Okello. I'm a PhD student at the University of Edinburgh, UK. I'm going to share the findings that on a study that was done by African Population and Health Research Center in Kenya and in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you. Edith?
My name is Edith Alugu from an organization called SWAP Kenya, implementing health and research activities in Western Kenya. And for our study, we were examining a parenting program based in the rural settings and working with CHVs to be able to introduce mothers to parenting practices.
Thank you. Leonard?
Leonard Chuma is my name. I also like to pride myself as the second board chair of the Kenya ECD Network, so retired now, and enjoying my retirement. I am the executive director, Early Start Africa, and we're working in providing practical solutions and modeling for care and education for young children. I am also a new colleague of Dr. Olumbe at Daystar University, and happy to be here.
Thank you. Michael?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Right, my name's Michael Gasheru. I'm the Partnerships Manager at Food for Education. I will be discussing some of the findings we have had on the impact of a school, an UJI program we've been supporting in Murang'a County, and talking about how something as simple as nutrition can have such a wonderful positive impact for children across the country.
Thank you, Michael. Now, Dr. Mwama, leadership is very critical, especially when we think about childhood development. Would you kindly help us to understand about this project that you did on research leadership for early childhood development systems measurements in Kenya? Just in 2 minutes, what were like your key findings that you'd like us to know and implement? Thank you, Dr. Ari.
Okay, just before I give you the findings, it is important to note here that this is a study that is being conducted in 3 countries, that is Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique. And in Kenya, the ECD Network for Kenya, in collaboration with Mathematica, are implementing this study. And the study was focusing on coming up with the ECD systems that affect early childhood. And the systems we were focusing on include policy, governance, multi-sectoral collaboration, and financing in early childhood. So the study had 2 phases. The first phase, we were focusing more on desk review to try and understand what systems have been put in place in relation to those 4 thematic areas, what gaps exist. So if I may quickly touch about some of the gaps that we identified in relation to the 4 thematic areas. Number 1, under governance, we discovered that there are gaps related to data on training of frontline workers on the ECD space. And when we are talking about the frontline workers, we are talking about the pre-primary school teachers, the community health workers or community health volunteers. Then in terms of payment of these frontline workers, there is a big gap in that. Then a framework, there's no framework related to multi-sectoral coordination both at the national and sub-county level. On financing, some of the gaps that we identified is that there is no ring-fenced budget for early childhood, and I think our chief guest alluded to this on Monday, where he was talking of funds not following the function that was developed, but also mechanisms of direct public participation. We realize that while there is public participation when budgeting is happening, sometimes our elected political leadership, either MCAs or MPs, have strong influence on what should be budgeted for. And also we discovered another gap is that there is so much investment on visible hardware like constructions and compared to invisible software elements like services that are provided. And another gap we discovered under finance is the fact that budget implementation is frequently affected by delayed disbursement. Under multi-sectoral coordination, some of the gaps that we identified include coordination of early childhood is fragmented in different ministries or departments. For example, if you go to the Ministry of Education, you will find there is the National Early Childhood Education Committee, which has drawn membership from the various ministries. And also, if you went to the Ministry of Health, you will find that there are many technical working groups. Of course, we are aware that now with the Children's Act 2021, the National Council for Children's Service is coming up to provide that coordination, but that has not been documented. Then establishment of high-level multi-sectoral coordination is lacking in most of our counties, apart from Siaya, where we noted from the documentation that the different departments come together and they budget or finance, or they have a multi-sectoral coordination that is existing that we did not find in other counties. Finally, allow me just to do the last one. Yeah. So, finally, under policy, we realized, number one, we do not have policy guidelines on children under the age of 3 in relation to their caregiving, and also implementation of policies in terms of tracking is something that is also lacking. In a nutshell, those are some of the findings that we found. Thank you.
And so just before you hand over the microphone, I think that is great. And I'd like in 1 minute, would you tell us from those findings, did you see something that was a best practice, maybe one that can be scaled up, Dr. Ari?
Okay, like I said, in terms of multi-sectoral coordination, if the model of Siaya can be replicated in terms of asking all the different departments to budget, because what we discovered is that like in Siaya, there is some budget from maybe agriculture, from Department of Education, from whatever. Maybe because they have documented in the documents that we were reviewing, and maybe if the other counties are doing the same, we did not come across documents for the same. But as I said, since this was a study that has 2 phases, if I didn't mention, the first one was on desk review, and that is what I am reporting. The second level was for primary data collection, which we have done in 4 counties, that is Siaya, we have done Nairobi, we have done Kajiado and Mombasa, and early this year we had an opportunity to disseminate these findings in Nairobi with members from these counties. Once we finalize that report, maybe we will be able to find out what is happening in other counties.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so as we then move on, we've talked about leadership and it is significant. Now, the Nurturing Care Framework talks about health. And health is not just about the child, it's also about the caregivers. Kenneth, Would you kindly help us, and in your study, and just tell us what your study was, but help us to understand what are some of the salient factors that underlie maternal parental stress? Is it more prevalent among the young ones or older ones? As you tell us in a nutshell about the study, what are these salient factors?
Thank you so much, Dr. So my research focus, before I go to the study specific, my research focus is on maternal mental health and parental stress and how they affect children's developmental outcome. So the studies that I'm going to talk about are focused on parental stress, which is the perception by the caregiver that the parental demands exceeds the finances or the resources that they have to fulfill the parental role. They say parental stress
has got, it affects children in two folds. One, it has a direct effect on
children's developmental outcome. This has been pointed out in genomic studies where they have indicated that during pregnancy, there is transfer. Those parents who reported high parental stress or mental health, there is transfer of genes to their children or to their offspring, which predisposes them to anxiety-related disorders in later life or in adulthood. Caregivers who reported the higher parental stress are also likely to have or to experience parental burnout, and they are likely to have emotional exhaustion and sleeping disorders, and these affect opportunities that they have to interact with their children to promote their children's developmental outcome. So, to go back to the question that I about the resilient factors, the underlying factors that predisposes caregivers to parental stress, the age of the caregivers. Parental stress, it has been said that from the literature, it's the caregivers who have, the teenage mothers are likely to be more stressed as parent compared to mothers aged 25 to 35. And also the older mothers, the older caregivers from 40 and above are likely to view parenting as a stressful activity. And then the income level, as well as the education level, and the number of children that they have that are below 3 years. The result from our study in Zambia and in Kisumu, we found out that on the underlying factors, we found out that age was a major factor, income and education was a major factor on the caregivers who reported to be having higher parental stress. And another thing that I also didn't want to forget to mention is how does this parental stress affect children's developmental outcome? Did you find it that it is associated with the child developmental outcome? Parents in our study in the two countries who reported that they had higher parental stress, they also reported that they are not engaging their children. They also reported low frequency in engaging their children in stimulating activities. And interestingly, those caregivers also in their children, when we assessed them, their children reported low developmental outcomes. So parental stress affects the way parent does their parenting, and it also affects how their children grow and develop. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as in one sentence or in one statement, if you can help us. So, in your study, would you say there is a space where parents themselves
can actually be involved as advocates to promote well-being in mental health for mothers?
Yes, this study that we did in Zambia and Kenya, it was a program of parenting empowerment program where caregivers were being enlightened about the parenting role, and this one was being done through group meetings and the home visit. And in a separate study that I'm not presenting here, but it helps this one, is that the parents, in the sense the parents who reported to be actively participating in these group meetings, they reported less parental stress, or they reported that parenting is not a burden to them. This is because they got an opportunity to share the parental burden with other caregivers. So grouping provided a space to air out their parental challenges, and also got opportunity to find solution the parental challenges that they experience. And another factor that, just one factor that I also wanted to mention about addressing parental role, parental stress, is male caregiver involvement. Gender role in parenting, male caregiver involvement in parenting had a significant effect, or kind of assisted primary caregivers to alleviate the parenting burden. So caregivers who reported that their male counterparts are actively participating in parenting, that is like playing with their children, helping them in household chores, they reported less parental stress.
Thank you. Excellent. And I think we're hearing from here male involvement, but also the age factor. And I think there's a lot to learn from there. But as we move on, Leonard, now we've just been told that age actually plays a role in affecting the mental wellness of the mother. And I know you are interested in teen mothers and their return to school. And in many areas, yes, you've talked about that. Would you kindly help us just to understand about these teenage mothers? What happens to them after they get their children? Who takes care of their children? And what are the outcomes in a nutshell?
Thank you, Dr. Olumbe. The topic of my discussion is teenage motherhood and return to school, the forgotten dilemma. And it's my focus is not really return to school, but there is, and I believe I would like to advocate for a hypothesis that what is the greatest challenge for us in the early childhood development is the children population that are left out of the regular conversations, the peripheral population of children. And as I leave this conference today, I feel I have 3 takeaways. One I got from the county first lady here, which was about 3-minute speech. Yesterday, a friend of mine, a TSC coordinator here from West, who dropped me at my hotel, and this morning about the prison children. We need to begin to talk about the children that are behind. Even if popularize the cliche of no child is left behind. And I feel, there are children born to teenage mothers that do not make it to the ordinary services and care that they deserve. So let me quote a Human Rights Watch 3-sentence excerpt. Jacinda, 15, was excluded from school after authorities found out that she was pregnant. She said her teachers took her to a medical clinic to undergo a pregnancy test. She subsequently gave birth prematurely and her baby did not survive. And for me, I am from a family of 11. I proudly say that because that's a well-planned family. My sister, who follows me immediately, became pregnant when she was in class 6. And myself and my elder brother, put her down to talk to her because we didn't feel it was right. Unfortunately, our father was around, and he told us, "You two guys leave my daughter alone." And so I'm not trying to advocate for teenage pregnancies and pregnancy in school. But even as we talk about how can we fight teenage pregnancies, or how do we help teenage mothers to come back to school, we should not forget that there are children born to teenage mothers. So how can we as a society be intentional in designing programs and services at the community, at the household level, in the schools? Do we have trained teachers who can provide care services for young children or counseling services for teenage mothers who are coming to school? I believe those are questions that we need to begin to talk about. We're privileged as a nation to be ahead of many others in the region, but our challenge is the forgotten population of children, the disabled children, children born to teenage mothers, children from refugees and those children. But a pregnant girl and young mother also has a right to education, health, nutrition, and protection. About 18% of adolescents become pregnant in Africa. So we're talking about 18%, children, potentially children. Unfortunately, and let me just read this, perhaps the last one. When pregnancy happens in school, the burden to the girl is much higher and by extension affects health of both the mother and the child. And unless we know enough about what's happening or the state of teenage pregnancies, what care they can access, what policies exist for their care, for nutrition, for health, counseling, and training them as caregivers, then we still have a challenge waiting for us. They are children.
Children just like children, and we need to take care of them. Thank you. And just, I really request one sentence. Do you think with the return to school policy for teen moms,
the only gap that we need to address?
Just like many other policies, there are more of aspirations than practical tools to help children. So you said one sentence.
Thank you for the sentence. All right. All right. And we move on, and thank you very much for that. We'll engage. And we are looking about parenting issues, and we've heard about parental stress. We are hearing about teen mothers. And I think there's something that we're also learning, group parenting practices. Maybe, Edith, if you can help us understand about your project on group-based parenting interventions. How is that? Would you tell us a little about it and the impact of it to the parents, Edith?
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, our topic was on examining the sustained impacts of a group-based parenting intervention on parents' behaviors and early child development in rural Kenya. This study was a randomized control trial implemented in Homa Bay and Vihiga counties. So yeah, there is a need for a lot of gaps on parenting care, and when we talk about ECD, most people think about these children when they already join preschool, and that was the basis of our study, because most gaps indicated that there was a lot missing in interventions, ECD interventions, and the parenting was very critical in supporting parents. And other programs, for example, REACH, that have been implemented, studies that have been done across the globe indicate that there were more of home visits that were done, and up to 33 contacts was basically left to the care of caregivers and other community health workers to do the same. So for that was very costly at the end of the day. When you actually compare the costs of contacts spread over a period of 1 or 2 years, that is a lot in terms of even scaling up. And therefore, for us, we actually focused on a parenting program where mothers and fathers, parents and caregivers actually were drawn across 60 villages in those site areas. And actually, we had 3 different arms. We had a group of 20 villages where nothing was done. Then we had a blended mixture of and parental group-based model. Then we had 20 other villages where we just purely focused on actually the group-based models. So for the group-based models, parents would come to a certain venue after every 2 weeks, spread over 8 months. And
we had structured curriculum delivery model where CHVs were our delivery models.
And agents, and therefore they were trained on the curriculum and this was an international curriculum that was translated into Luo and Swahili. So Luo largely focused on villages in Homa Bay, and Swahili for Vihiga County. So what basically happened, the CHVs were trained on nurturing, the curriculum anchored on nurturing care. Besides that, we had stimulating activities introduced to groups of mothers where they were given an opportunity to try out the activities back at home and present feedback after every 2 weeks. Then we also had serious gaps in nutrition.
Mothers report at baseline were only able to feed children on Uji, and only 1 or 2 out of the 7 or 8 food categories, and
that improved over time after going through the curriculum. We also had play activities, and for the play activities, mothers at baseline thought that play was actually for the richer. They did not have money, and our parents are actually drawn from the rural setting where they thought that they did not need to actually interact with the child using toys because of the lack of resources. So we coached the mothers on producing locally made toys, and therefore being able to actually do this with their children at home, and you avoid the store-bought toys. Apart from that, we had stimulating activities as well, and the general safety parents to be able to support them through the curriculum. So of course there were a number of dropouts due to responsibilities of the parents, but once they got to understand the value added to the parenting program, they moved on to the end. So during booster at end line of the survey, we actually noticed, there was improved cognitive and emotional indicators, the short-term impacts that were recorded, and our Msingibora children seemed to have thrived when compared to their counterparts in the control villages. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe just a quick one, and please make it summary. Did you see a best practice there that you can scale up on group parenting interventions?
Yeah, it's less costly because when the cost effectiveness analysis was done, a child was spending, one child spent $119, which was cheaper than other programs across the globe.
Thank you so much, Edith. We appreciate that. And so we move on to Michael Gasheru. And Michael will be helping us to understand about key imperatives in achieving universal. The key thing is food for education. And we say the best way to reach a man's heart is through his stomach. Anyway, tell us something about food for education in summary, and how this model has worked. Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari, and thank you so much to my fellow panelists for the good work they've done. So what we do is basically work with parents, county governments, national government, to really push for having nutrition as a talking point for the importance of our young learners in schools, and a motivational point for that. For what I'm here to discuss with you today is a small study we did with some ECD learners we have in Murang'a County. We did a survey where we wanted to see, okay, what has the impact been? We do an UJI program there, and we had respondents including head teachers, teachers, learners, and parents to just kind of quantify how important how important nutrition is for children, how important having even just a cup of uji in the morning is benefiting their health, is benefiting their mental state, is benefiting their performance in school. And the results we came around with are actually kind of impressive and state a case for why nutrition is such an important thing. So, for example, when we look at things like enrollment, you always wonder why sometimes in schools students are not present and all. So we try to answer that as a motivational factor to come to school. And we found that whereas previously absenteeism in the schools we surveyed was at about a rate of about 6 children per day, that ended up dropping in about the span of a month to a maximum of only 2 children a day, which shows us that, you know, having something to look forward to in terms of like a full belly of uji in school is beneficial and motivating to children as they come to school. We also looked at how parents view having a cup of uji or having nutrition in general benefits their children's health. And about 76% of parents we surveyed all responded positively that they can see a noticeable improvement in both their children's physical health and also mental well-being. So it's proven to be one of the lowest hanging fruits in terms of addressing some of the critical issues around having children come to school, stay in school, be engaged, and get quality of education from our study. I think maybe one other thing I would talk about is enrollment. So we have had cases in this country of children dropping out of school for a variety of different factors, some of which my esteemed panelists have talked about. But I think one key thing, and I heard this on the first day of our conference, why is nutrition an almost national topic? We know we have the free primary education, but we don't have anything that pushes nutrition as a basic human right for our young children. So we just looked at enrollment. And enrollment basically in all the schools we surveyed, and these are about 315 ECD centers, enrollment was responded positively in about 76% of them. So enrollment went up, basically indicating to us that nutrition, having food in school, also encourages children to come to school. So in a nutshell, I think in terms of nutrition and its importance, it can't be understated how valuable it is for children to, and it's a basic human right to have access to a good meal. So we believe it's imperative to push that forward and have it as a national agenda.
Thank you very much. Being young, allow me give you one question. And I know Tobias is online and our time is over. Can Tobias be able to talk? Tobias Aulo? Are we able to put him online to... Yeah, okay, as we wait for Tobias to come online, and I think he's going to bring in a very relevant aspect in terms of male involvement in nurturing care. I think we have picked from the presenters here, just the parenting, and I think from Kenneth's work we did hear that when male are involved, the parental stress of the mother is even reduced, and I believe as he brings that to us, we'll be able to hear. I'm being told, no way. The 2 minutes are not changing? Okay. So I think maybe if another opportunity will arise, then Tobias will be able to respond, but we need to move on. It was very critical. Now, members, just to let us know, what has been done here is just to dangle the carrot. I hope you'll go chasing for the carrot and eat it. Otherwise, they have just given us a bit of it. You can meet with the members to give you details of their studies and what has been done. It was my pleasure having this team. Thank you very much. And we shall just stand and honor you. Thank you.
A big round of applause for Dr. Olumbe and her panel. Very rich panel. Asante sana, well done. Makofi sio, hiyo ni ya wivu. Piga makofi vizuri wan. Let us sit and know that she has led a powerful panel here. There are many takeaways, and I think even as we continue to get draw closer towards the end, there's a lot that we are learning in the midst of this conference. Participants here, kuna watu wengi wako nafahamu kabisa. Like I mentioned also, we have the posters there. There are additional sources of information. Please make sure you go and just read what is going on. So at this moment in time, I recognize that the counties are here. Now, one of the things that we are going to do is to make it possible for the counties to also share with us what they are doing. And I want to invite the session chair to invite those that are going to be making their presentations. I'd like us, because of the fact that we don't have adequate space at the front, I would want to invite all those that are coming to speak, the CECs, if it is them or it's the chief officers, I don't know who, but would like to have
Can we proceed to speak? Oscar, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Please proceed to speak because I have heard you.
Oscar, can you hear us?
I said yes, we can hear you, Tobias. Please speak. Tobias?
Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll make this presentation, myself and Charles, and then Grace is also online, and she'll be able to come up and speak to some aspects. So my name is Tobias Saulo. I work for the Anglican Development Services, and I work with other colleagues. Charles, can you just introduce yourself and also Grace, so that we quickly run through the presentation and we give time for questions from the plenary.
Thank you very much, Toby. My name is Charles Ombonya. I work with Tobias at ADS Nyanza.
Okay, thank you very much. So ADS Nyanza is the arm of Anglican Church that does development, and just to be on spot, we implement other program interventions, including early childhood development, dubbed Moments That Matter. So in our Moments That Matter, we focus on two critical things. One of them is the faith leaders as key behavior change participants, and also we also focus on the male caregivers as also key drivers to certain caregiving behavior change. So therefore, in this context, we want to quickly bring to speed the fact that in our engagement with the faith leaders, we have seen quite a lot that happens in terms of change as it regards to nurturing care. So Charles, I want to quickly invite you to do a very brief overview of what we have seen in terms of effectiveness of engaging faith leaders, and then Grace also quickly in terms of what we have while engaging men, what lessons we can share with the team here. So Charles, go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is an implementation study that was focusing on the effectiveness of faith leaders in the delivery of the nurturing care framework, with special focus on children 0 to 3 years. So this was the study was done in Siaya, Homa Bay, and Kisumu counties for a period of 24 months. This particular study, having gotten findings from other studies on the effectiveness of faith leaders in the delivery of maternal child health alongside other health messaging issues, sought to see if faith leaders would play any role, if any, and how effective would they be in that role within the nurturing care framework. So it was a mixed method study. So we had the quantitative aspects and qualitative aspects. And out of this, a total of 150 faith leaders were recruited in those particular 3 counties. And their targeting was for 2,809 primary caregiver households over a period of 24 months. And these particular households had one feature in common, that they had a male caregiver in those particular households, whether secondary or primary. So we looked at the various data around male involvement in caregiving, nutrition, birth registration, immunization. These were collected both at the baseline level and at the end of the intervention period. The quantitative data was analyzed using descriptive statistics via the SPSS version 23, whereas for the quantitative data, we used NVivo version 12. So in terms of the roles that came out in terms of the faith leaders within the nurturing care framework, one of them was ECD advocacy work. And this they do using the sermon guides in their day-to-day work and the Bible study guides. Then championing of male involvement, in nurturing care, being a bottleneck that other interventions, similar interventions have faced in the past. Then one key element again that was coming out strongly in terms of the role of faith leaders is the issue of psychosocial support for caregivers. As has been shared by the other speakers within the panel, issues of caregiver stress can have detrimental effects on the children. Then issues again around championing of positive discipline and campaign against SGBV in families of children 0 to 3 years. In terms of findings, we realized a significant increase in male involvement in responsive caregiving, and this they were attributing, the respondents were attributing this to faith leaders' advocacy for shared parenting. So at the start of the study, we only had 58, which is 2% of primary caregivers being males, but at the end of the study in quarter 8, we had 145 males, assuming roles as primary caregivers. Then we also had just 30% of males, assuming roles as primary caregivers. But then at the end of it all, we had 1740, assuming roles as secondary caregivers. So the graph again just depicts the changes in those numbers and capturing per counties. So further findings reveals that male caregivers reported increased confidence in caregiving duties. This was a confidence that went beyond the cultural barriers that were keeping the males off the caregiving scene. So they began adopting, activities such as changing the babies, bathing, feeding, making play materials together with the children, taking the children to clinic, and spending quality time with the young children, something that was not happening previously. Then also, the respondents reported enhanced mental health and well-being and reduced incidences of gender-based violence, and reduced stress levels and improved self-esteem and confidence in caregiving was reported for both male and female caregivers. In terms of adoption of nurturing care practices by males within the program, we have these numbers that reported having adopted positive discipline practices, and you can see an increase from the onset up to the end for the various counties. For example, we have a 5 at the onset and a 1 or 4 at the end of the study period. And this is with regards to Homa Bay County. We also have a 16 at the beginning of the period of the study to a 9-12, and that is for CIL. I mean, that was for Kisumu, sorry. Yeah, so we have seen significant progress around that. In terms of number of males engaging children in activities stimulating social emotional development, again, we have seen a lot of significant increase. So this was across the 4 developmental domains, and also additionally issues of toy making and issues of positive discipline adoption. So out of the improved male involvement in nurturing care, again, we have seen significant increase in the number of children on track with immunization.
Charles, can you do a summary, because I think our time is out, and there are a few questions around the male engagement that I think the panelists might want to, that we might want to respond to. Thank you.
All right. So I want to end it there and conclude by saying that out of this study, we felt that incorporating faith leaders in the implementation of the nurturing care framework would be key for effective delivery of this program. Thank you. And I would like to welcome questions at this point.
Thank you very much. I think we appreciate ADS. ADS have been very critical to this particular workshop too, because even the sound system we are using, it's courtesy of them. So we are glad we allowed you to talk. Tobias, I think you'll allow us not to ask questions at this time, that we would move on with the program, but if we have questions, we will share with you via the Secretariat. Thank you for your presentation around how it is that we can incorporate the input of the faith leaders, and I know one of them, Reverend Otieno, is here with us, because that is one of the ways in which we are making sure that the faith actors are involved. Thank you, ADS, for taking the lead in that particular space. So very quickly, I think I'll allow Dr. Moma to take over this session as we move into the presentations from the counties.
Thank you so much, MC, for the job well done. It is now time for all of us to listen to our counties, what you have done in support of early childhood in relation to the children's health, their education, their protection, and all their nutrition and everything. We had written to all economic blocks secretariats to make presentations on what they are going to do in their counties, in their economic blocks. And I'm going to invite secretariat, that is those who are coming from the secretariat from those economic block. And by show of hand, I just want to confirm how many economic blocks are represented here. That is the secretariat that is coordinating, because after the secretariat speaks, and then we invite counties from that economic block to make their presentations, and then we move on. So the Lake Region Economic Block, I know the CEO is here, so he will speak first. Then all counties from the Lake Region Economic Blocks, you will also have an opportunity to speak. Can I see the representation from the NOREP Secretariat here? The Secretariat. Okay. Then we have FCDC Secretariat. Yes, I can see a hand behind there. Thank you. Please come in front. Come in front, sir. Come and sit here. And then the FCDC, please come. You give us an overview what you are doing. One of you. I saw one hand. We have Southeastern Kenya Economic Block Secretariat. I'm short. Southeastern Kenya Economic Block. Anybody from the Secretariat? Thank you. I've not seen a hand. Then we have Jumuiya ya County Zabwani Secretariat. I'm not seeing the hand. Then we have Mount Kenya and Aberdares Region Economic Block Secretariat. Okay, so we have LREP who is going to take 10 minutes to brief us what the county, what you are doing in your economic block. And then for your information, we have 31 counties represented here. So we are going to be quick when we move straight to the counties. So after the
CEO LREP speaks, then we will invite the counties under LREP.
They make their presentations, and then we move to NOREP. Counties now from NOREP, because I didn't see anybody from Secretariat, and then we move down like that. Is that okay? Sasa mkinyamaza shwali. You can go on.
Thank you very much, Daktari. My name is Victor Nyagaya, the CEO of the Lake Region Economic Bloc. The Lake Region Economic Bloc is a conglomerate of 14 counties in around the Lake region, spanning right from Trans Nzoia all the way to Migori. We also have four counties that are both in NOREB and in LREB. That is Bomet, Kericho, Trans Nzoia, and I think three counties who are both in NOREB and as well as in the Lake region. Now, the Lake region chair is called Excellency Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, and the vice chair is Excellency Governor Kenneth Lusaka, County Governor of Bungoma. Now, for us in the Secretariat, we do mostly coordination of our counties in terms of I will be specific to the purpose for which we are here. That is the early childhood development and nurturing care. We have done quite some strides, and I want to believe that we are already in the space of action. We have gone through the other two stages, and we are actually at the position and space of action, because we have done quite some work in terms of scaling up the study that has been spoken a lot here about CIA, which took leadership in the initiative of SSI, Smart Start Initiative. And this is from conception to 3 years. And this education has gone pretty well. We have scaled up to 6 counties. And the model in CI is what we are scaling up, meaning we want counties. And we have had dialogue. We have met the governors, the various governors of the 6 counties, to adapt the CI model where you integrate this program in each and every department, so that you create budgets in every other department to address themselves on the needs and support and care of the early childhood initiative in your department, be it agriculture, be it roads, because we so realized that, and the study of CIA gave us an in-depth of the fact that it is a cross-cutting affair. It is not an individual, say. A lot of times you find that it is thrown to the Ministry of Health, but that is not where it belongs. That is where the road begins. But then as you proceed, you realize that it is across the entire spectrum of life, and that is the reason why we have done 6 inceptions. Madam Monica Daktari normally calls it the initiative first the bus. Then we graduated to the SDR. The SDR is to mean that we want to cover the entire 14 counties, so that we have a situation, and we want to try as much as possible that we be the first block that has adapted the model, that we shall have this initiative incorporated in our CIDPs, so that the budgets are quite clear and the programs are ongoing. And of course, I would wish to say that one of the counties has a wonderful program, that is Vihiga. I don't know whether the Vihiga CC is still here. But in Vihiga, we were impressed when we went there that the governor, together with his team, are able to track expectant mothers from wherever they are. If any of them failed to show up for the clinic, there is a system, they will call that lady and ask her why. But upon coming, and the good thing about it is they are encouraged, because when they come for the clinic, from the time of inception to delivery and post-delivery, they are given 1,000 shillings per visit, which makes it very attractive for mothers who are expectant to have no excuse why they should not attend the clinics. We would wish to try as much as we can and have conversations with the block governors, with the governors in the counties to adapt that system, because that is where the story begins, and we would like the story to be a successful story. I want to donate 2 or 3 minutes of mine to my leader, the person in my office who handles the pillar of early childhood development and education. And that is Madam Esther Okela. I would like you to come here and say 1 or 2 things for what we really do at the Lake Region. And I forgot to tell you that Lake Region is the largest block among the 6 blocks and the most vibrant. As you can see, we are the only ones around here, and you'll see us more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. CEO. I'd also like to thank you for your unwavering support. Can we have the counties from Elreb come and sit here?
I would like to thank him for his unwavering support to continue catalyzing the process of early childhood development. One thing I would like to do is just to do a rejoinder of what the CEO has said, that here we are focusing how we can move from policy and evidence to action. And it's also important that we realize that LREP operates through an ambit of policy, through our LREP Act, which was established in 2018. And this was borrowed from the Intergovernmental Relations Act. So that gives us the mandate to operate in coordination. So our overarching approach is basically a coordination mandate. As we coordinate the 3 constituencies, that is the national government, the COG, the counties, and working with the communities, we realize that we have a number of items that we work on. Like Dr. Teresia Mama has said, we have 7 regional economic blocks. We do share NOREB with some of our counties. And because I had an opportunity to attend a section of the summit, I would like to point out just one item that perhaps should have been focused on in this conference, but maybe it was left out, that in NOREB we have Trans Nzoia and Nandi counties, but their ultimate overarching issue is about peace. The heartstand of NOREB is how to ensure that they are peaceful, simply because of the constant issues that affect children, which have been unresolved over the years. And so when we move into Trans Nzoia, that is the aspect that we are dealing with alongside Nandi counties. So I would like to say that
as we provide that oversight role, we ensure that counties and implementing partners' goals
are achieved through a constant monitoring and evaluation, and identifying the best practices. Like the CEO has said, from Sia County, we intend that the best practice of a coordinated approach, which is county-led, is upscaled to the other counties in NOREB. So we basically rely heavily on regular progress meeting with the various stakeholders for ownership of the various outcomes and the engagements that we have. So at LREB, we have pillars, which cut across the 10 thematic areas, a replica of the 10 departments that we have in our counties. So these pillars act like a delivery unit where we ensure that the mandates are, the outcomes of the mandates from both entities are effectively delivered. So as we do the coordination of state and non-state actors, we also ensure that there's no duplication of roles. That is our ultimate goal. And we also ensure that partners are not working in silos. So I want to say that apart from that, I would like to highlight a bit of the milestones that we have covered. We've had continuous sensitization of the executive leadership on nurturing care for early childhood development, specifically in the science of ECD, in partnership, of course, with Aga Khan University. And currently, we're also bringing on board Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University to also support us in that course. Then we've also established a comprehensive partner coordination framework. And also we are working with the partners that are aligned to nurturing care for early childhood development. More specifically, we have currently we have KNET, we have PATH, we have CRS, we have ADS, we have UNICEF, we have Uthabiti, we have Kidogo, we have Child Fund, we have IRCK. We have our latest kid in the block, ADU, that is bringing on board the digital literacy for ECD. So basically, our appreciation is to these implementing partners on the ground, because without them, we may not have reached where we have. Then, of course, continuous engagement with the academia for continuous documentation. We're also looking forward that documentaries should be produced so that we are in line with what is happening. Finally, as I conclude, something that struck me in our NOREB meeting was a narration that was given by the Deputy Governor for Turkana, Mr. John Erus. And he actually narrated how they toyed with guns growing up. So basically what they understand is how to operate a gun as a child. And then the other aspect that he also talked about growing up is the fact that children in certain communities, especially the western part of NOREB, live through that communal conflict. Parents live anxiety and uncertainty. And that brings me to the point that I wanted to just briefly talk about that may have been left out on the GBV, so that even if we have Nandi and Trans Nzoia enjoying relative peace, there is also the aspect of latent violence, which is exhibited especially through patriarchy and GBVs. So we have children that undergo the traumatic experiences, which is the common denominator for children within this. So as the mothers are constantly anxious and uncertain of tomorrow, we know what happens to children. And another speaker here just talked about anxiety-related disorder in the later years. So there's a lot to be done, especially to these mothers who are constantly undergoing GBVs and also aspects of patriarchy that affects us. So I believe that behavioral change is not a walk in the park. It's going to be taking time, but with a lot of consistency and persistence through coordination under the leadership of our CEO, we believe that we will achieve our goal. Thank you.
Give them a round of applause, please.
If the chair allows, I would like my colleagues from the secretariat, can you please stand wherever you are or just wave so that we came with a strong team of about 5 of us. I have the director of communication, Catherine. I have, are you all there? We have the pastor, Jeremiah from Bungoma on education. We have Dan. Yeah, we have Dan from Homa Bay. Yeah, so I think the secretariat are well represented. in this conference, and we want to thank the county government of Turkana for the warm reception they've accorded us since we came here, as we came here on Saturday, and we are grateful for the reception, and we thank you, Madam Daktari, for the invitation that you extended to LREB. I remember when we were in Siaya, we had a vote, and surprisingly, Turkana won, and we supported that. We want to have our next conference in Turkana, and thank you for such a wonderful organization. It has gone on pretty well. Thank you so much. We look forward to the 6th conference. We shall be there, whether it is in Isiolo. Count on LREB. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He's rigging here now. They don't know that we are going to vote at the end of this exercise to get who is going to take, okay? Now rigging has started. Okay, thank you so much, sir. And thank you for taking us through what you are doing in the Lake Region Economic Bloc. And I think there is so much that we have learned from them. I'm reminded that Nairobi is standing alone as an economic bloc. So Nairobi have captured that, and you are going to make the presentation. So far we have 2 counties from the Lake Region Economic Bloc who are already seated here. I believe others may be left or something. So we are going to start with Migori, and the CEC Education is going to come introduce herself and briefly talk about what they are doing in the Lake Region Economic in Migori County. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Dr. Betty Samburu, CCM Education, Gender, Youth, Sports, Culture, and Social Services, Migori County. I will just highlight on the status of ECD, especially early childhood education in Migori. For the LREB counties, what the Secretariat has not told you is that we are at different stages in implementation of ECD. As much as you listen to the how good and how Siaya has done great work, for Migori we are just rallying around or behind, and we know that within a short time from the plans that have been put, we are going to reach that status. There is implementation of ECD through partnership with other partners like the Luala community for the 0 to 3, and also the ECD where education falls. So I will straight go to, we had been given a template for presentation, but I will not follow it closely because I've been given 5 minutes. But I want to say that in terms of pre-primary status of education, in Migori we have a total of 1,326 ECD centers. That is for pre-primary. 817 are public and 509 are private. And the ECD enrollment is 105,631. We also have 765 teachers employed by government, but there is also support from the parents and community at 1,314. If we go by the pre-primary policy, the national pre-primary policy, you will find that if we were to follow it strictly ideal, we have a deficit of 2,422 teachers. That is 1 per 25 ratio. So we have not yet achieved that. So the status of funding for ECD is that, the devolved function is ECD and vocational. As a proportion of funding, we have a total funding for ECD of cash shillings 365,103,036. That is according to the funding for these years, this new financial year, and it covers ECD trainings like quality assurance, furniture, co-curricular activities, and even school feeding program, which we have just budgeted for at a very small scale of 3,250,000. And as we see, from my calculations that I was doing, I found that for us to really implement like school feeding program, that is, for example, maybe 2 days milk, 250 milliliters per child, we will require around 140,000. Given that we have that 365 for all ECD, you see we will not be able even to do it. So that funding or allocation of resources for ECD is a problem, and this is where I was alluding that if we were to go by statistics and data, for example, you have seen Migori has over 105 students, it means we will really be considered for more funding for ECD, which will be based right from the national level capitation, because the resources that come to the county is normally scrambled from health, from all over agriculture, hence you cannot just be able. For example, if we received 622 for education, youth, and sports, and also vocational, you see already ECD has taken more than half. We will wish to do more, but we are constrained by resources. So we will require 143, 456, 400 to do school feeding for 2 days per week, which we have not started yet. So we might begin at a smaller scale. So what are the county legal and policy framework on child care facilities? Currently in Migori, we don't have any child care policy for the county, but I know at the national level in the Ministry of Health, for example, there was development of guidelines for workplace support for breastfeeding and even implementation framework under the Ministry of Health. We can still be using that until we come to develop our own child care policy. But we are already developing child welfare policy that was presented in the assembly, and we will have modification on it. We have many challenges. The most challenge I want to present here that needs to be sought at the national level, at the policy national level, is the many policies that are coming with different legal frameworks. For example, we have the Early Childhood Policy 2020, Early Childhood ECE policy, Early Childhood Education Policy 2021. It has given coordination structure. When we come to Early Childhood Education Policy that is developed, it has a different structure of coordination. When we come to National ECD Pre-Primary Policy, a different structure. So what are we going to adopt? That harmonization needs to really come at the higher level there, with clear coordination structures that can enable us to decide on which we need to follow. And also the issue of quality assurance has clearly been catered in the ECE Act 2021, which will enable us to do that. The issue of early special needs cases, you know, the early special needs is not devolved, but we have many of them within our schools. No capacity building for them, so we need that area for quality assurance and all these other areas. So if we establish, we are happy that the ECE Act